Hello viewers, my channel reaches very down, so I kindly request you guys to watch the full video and please like and also subscribe to support financially. Thanks for waiting, now enjoy the video.
Beneath the night sky full of stars stands a mighty citadel. Beneath that citadel stands a pile of trash, yet a star that does not shine in the highest peaks of the night, and is instead stuck in the ditches where no one looks, is still a star. That is when a hand emerges from the rubble, reaching for the sky. A boy climbs up from the trash, grasping for air in the cold weather, holding a sword in his hand. He is the one destined to be the star of those overlooked ditches and rubble. That is, if he wishes to shine and embrace the light in its heart. In a crowded city, a young boy looks towards the open doors of a weapon shop. His pale blue eyes fixate on a beautifully made sword. He even says that no matter how many times he looks at it, it looks just as cool as always. Suddenly, he is disturbed by someone calling on him from behind, saying they knew the boy would be there. That someone is Zemina, who addresses the young boy as Vlad, and asks him if he realizes that his mind has been in a completely different place lately. Hearing this, Vlad tells Zemina not to get on his nerves, as coming to that shop and looking at that sword is one of the few breaks he gets. Zemina replies, asking him if that is so, and tells Vlad that this is why people start rumors about him. Vlad asks her what rumors she is talking about, and Zemina starts shaking her head in disagreement, with a sweat breaking from her cheek. She then whispers to Vlad, asking him if he still hears voices when picking up a stick or anything like that. Vlad doesn't answer, thinking about what Zemina said, and she mockingly asks Vlad what sins he has committed in his past life. She says that because no one would have expected for Vlad to be struck by lightning on a clear day, and a black lightning at that. Zemina tells Vlad that he should stay cooped up in the shop for a while, as people are saying that the new bishop is sensitive about omens and stuff like this. She tells Vlad that the bishop used to work as a heresy inquisitor, so if he sees anyone suspicious, they're going to be sent straight to the stake to be burnt. Hearing this, Vlad asks Zemina why she had to tell him something like this, and Zeming says that she is doing it because she is worried about him. She says that Vlad should be aware of the fact that a lot of people have seen get struck by lightning, and that everyone is talking behind his back already, so he shouldn't be standing around like that, spacing out, asking him what will happen if the church takes him away. Vlad replies that he won't get dragged away just for staring at a sword for a bit, and Zemina tells him that if he likes it that much, he should just buy it already, and not be so dense. Vlad tells Zemina that it's too expensive, and she asks how expensive it can be, as it's just a back alley blacksmith, even offering to buy it for him. This is when Vlad tells Zemina the price, 5 gold. Hearing the price, Zemina grabs her elbows and asks what the hell is that price, and Vlad sheds a sweat from his cheek. Seeing Zemina's reaction, she places her thumb on her face, saying that this is a ridiculous price for a stupid chunk of metal, and that she could do a lot with that money. So Vlad interrupts her, saying that he already knows everything Zeming wants to say, that she wouldn't need to work for an entire year with that kind of money. Unfortunately for them, someone else seems to have heard Zemina's comment, and they didn't appreciate her calling the sword a stupid chunk of metal. That person is the blacksmith, menacingly approaching, telling the kids to get out of his sight, as that sword is not something for some back alley kids like them. Zemina, however, is unbothered by what the blacksmith said, asking him who else is going to buy it, as it's being sold in the slums. So who else but someone from the slums would see it and buy it, and telling him that he is out of his mind if he thinks otherwise. Realizing what Zemina called him, the blacksmith gets mad, asking them if they have no manners. Zemina then tells the man that he caused all this ruckus by making a sword only knights would use, mockingly asking him if his time has come or something. Hearing this, the blacksmith gets even more annoyed, and tells Zemina that this is exactly why he has built the sword, calling her a bitch, and telling the kids to go back washing the damn dishes at their shop. Grandpa seems on edge. Zemina also gets fired up when hearing what the blacksmith called her, and she screams at him, saying that she is a grown woman, as Vlad places his hand on her head. Vlad takes Zemina away, telling her not to get worked up about this, and informs the old man that they are leaving, yet Zemina doesn't want to leave, telling Vlad that she didn't do anything wrong. All of this while the blacksmith screams for Zemina to quit it. As the kids turn away, he calls Zemina a rotten bitch, saying that she is full of venom. He then reminisces about how much food and help he has offered to them when they were little kids and had nowhere to sleep. He turns his back and calls her a damn bitch for one last time before going back to his shop. That is when he looks down and notices something on the ground. These are Vlad's footprints left onto the ground. That is how the blacksmith realizes that Vlad must have been standing there for a while, as the dirt is all dug up. He then lifts his gaze, realizing that Vlad was looking at his word, and says that he should be focusing on trying to make ends meet instead of standing around. He then takes the sword in his hand and says that he knows it better than anyone, that a slum kid never makes it out of the slums, and that this will only make it harder for him if he develops dreams in a place like that. That is why he wants to sell that sword to someone that has the potential to actually make it out of there, as he cannot let his last work rot in a place like that. He then looks at the edge of the blade and says that it's just the same as Vlad. They both shine in a place like this. The city where all of this is happening is called Schoarra, the center of the northern economy, and the lighthouse of the northern region, thanks to the power of the Vayezid family. Therefore, it is only natural for such a place of brilliance to harbor dark shades, like the slum, into which all kinds of dirty and foul things were thrown. Inside what seems to be a brothel, men seem to be drinking, laughing, and enjoying the woman employed there. That is when a man draws attention to the upstairs balcony by pulling one of the women by her hair and accusing her of trying to scam him. The woman, being dragged across the wooden floor, asks the man how she has tried to scam him, and he replies by telling the women that he has worked as a mercenary for the past 20 years, so there's no way she can sell fake medicine to him. Another man then comes, holding a little wooden crate, telling the man that it's never quiet around there, implying that this time, it's because of him. This is Vlad, and when the man sees him, he calls it great timing and tells him to call the madam of the brothel over. Vlad tells him that in order to meet Thor madam, he needs to pay in gold coins, not silver ones. Hearing this, the man gets annoyed, telling Vlad that he shouldn't ask for gold coins when he's running his business like this, and if he cannot meet with the madam, he wants to see Vlad's mother instead. Hearing this, Vlad's expression remains unfazed, with his pale blue eyes staring into the man's soul. It's clear to everyone that this comment annoyed him. The man continues mumbling, saying that the candle that measures time was a fraud, as it burnt away before he has managed to even do anything. Vlad asks the man how he was going to have any time with a 5-minute session, and tells him that if he doesn't have the money, he should go rub his wife's ass instead. Hearing this, the man gets even angrier, asking Vlad how he dares say something like this to him. Yet Vlad remains calm, simply calling the man loud and proposing to check if he is right or not. He points towards a clock in the room and tells him that they will light a candle in order to see if it will last for 5 minutes or not. Vlad says that if it doesn't, he will allow the man to do anything he wants to that woman. The man, however, doesn't seem to be interested, asking Vlad why he should even listen to a bunch of scammers like him. This is when Vlad tells him that they will do it anyway, but if the candle does burn for 5 minutes, he's going to beat the shit out of the man as revenge for what he has done to the girl. Hearing this, the man starts sweating, not sure what to say or do. Seeing his expression, Vlad asks if anything is wrong and acknowledges the kid's eyes the man has put on his face. Vlad then takes a match and lights it. He prepares to light the candle, saying that they should now see who the scammer is. The man looks down at the candle with fear in his eyes. Vlad simply looks as confident and unhinged as ever, while the poor woman is crying, waiting to see what is happening. At this point, all the eyes in the bar are turned towards the 2 men at the balcony. Vlad then looks down one last time. The candle has finished burning. The man then looks at the clock, asking himself what time was the time earlier. This is when Vlad calls for him, and as he turns, he hits him with a stick right into the face. The man falls to the ground and the woman gets behind Vlad. As blood splatters all around, Vlad looks towards the man and tells him that his 5 minutes have passed, calling him a son of bitch. He then raises his leg, prepared to hit him once again. He kicks him in the back, throwing him inside of a room. He closes the food behind him, preparing to have a little chat with the man. He looks down on the man and tells him that for what he has done, he is dead. With blood running down from his nose, the man places his hand in front of Vlad, asking him to wait. However, he does not seem to care one bit, as next, he starts hitting the man again, and even harder, saying that he was actually the one trying to scam them, as Vlad has never seen a mercenary that was as fat as him. Besides this, he also brought his mother into this was a big mistake, as Vlad tells him he should be more considerate of people without moms. He is beating the man so hard that the fuss can be heard from the outside. The next morning, Vlad talks to a man, and he tells him that someone has messed with the candles, as they don't actually burn for 5 minutes. He asks the man if he gets what he is saying, yet the man, Jorge, doesn't really care about it, as he simply enjoys his meal. Hearing this, a woman can't believe that someone would dare to mess with their precious candles, asking who would do that. Vlad says that he doesn't know, but he will find out. The woman tells him to look for them, and Vlad asks her how he is supposed to find the culprit. Then the woman reveals that she already found them. Hearing this, Vlad remains stunned and asks the woman who did it. The woman places a hand on her cheek and says that she was the one to do it, as she wanted to play a little prank and wanted to scam those drunkards and get more money. This woman is actually Rose's smile madam Marcella. After hearing this, Vlad remains speechless. Going down the stairs, Vlad thinks about how he beat up that guy for no reason. However, he thinks there was nothing he could do as a mere employee anyway. Suddenly, someone interrupts him, saying that he has heard what Vlad did yesterday and that he is really proud of him. The man told him that he's done great and that something had to happen while he was gone. The man then places his hand on Vlad's shoulder, telling him that he must have gotten some tips selling candles yesterday and that he and his friends need some money right now, but they are all so broke. The man's name is Burly, as Vlad addresses him when he asks what the fuck he's trying to do. Seeing the look on Vlad's face, Burly leans back and tells him not to get scary. He tells Vlad that he is not just asking for it, and that it will be a fair trade, which intrigues Vlad. Burly tells Vlad that if he gives him some change, he has something to give back to him. A pickpocket that is awkward, stupid, and unskilled. He then holds a child up and asks Vlad if he recognizes him. He tells Vlad that he will give the kid back to him for 40 silver coins, and that it's a really good deal. Seeing the state the kid's in, he asks Burly about his fingers and ankles. He tells Vlad that he wouldn't have called Vlad over if he had cut them off, and that he had just taught him a little lesson. Hearing this, Vlad gets visibly annoyed, yet doesn't say anything. He then throws a bag full of money on the ground, and in response, Burly says that he knew he could depend on him. He then tells Burly that next time, he should just get rid of the kid entirely, and not call for him again, and the kid doesn't seem to be a fan of what Vlad has said. As they are leaving, Burly tells Vlad not to be like this, as they are not murderers, but gang members, and Vlad replies by telling them that they are scamming their own family co-worker. Burly then tells his peers that he was sure Vlad would take the deal, as he knew he had control over the vagrant kids. Vlad then asks for Ned, the kid, looking down on him with a scary look in his eyes. Seeing this, Ned says he is sorry, and that he tried to play it safe, but there was nothing he could do. Vlad then asks him if he has any broken bones or injuries that require his attention. The kid replies that he is all okay while placing his hand behind his neck and letting his head down. Hearing this, Vlad tells him to fuck off before he breaks some for the money he costed him. Vlad turns his back and the kid thanks him and leaves. After this, Vlad starts thinking, placing his head behind his head, just like the kid did earlier, and saying that there goes his 5 gold goal. At the shipyard, some men seem to prepare going to the sea to fish while being prompted by their boss. Inside an office, another man writes something on a piece of paper and says that that kid was actually lucky. He then shows his hand and says that he didn't lose any fingers. This man is Harvin, a whale hunter from the Captain Hoover family. He reminisces about his past, and a picture appears with Harvin having his fingers and ankles cut off, while Zemina and Vlad are trying to mend him. He was made an example for anyone else that tried to steal from Burly. Leaving that aside, Harvin asks about the event that took place the night before, and says that he has heard someone has messed with the candles, and Vlad asks if he already knows about it. Harvin says that it's been a while since the rumors went around, but nobody seemed to really believe it. The madam is the one making the candles, but Marcella isn't the type of person to do that, he says. Hearing this, Vlad agrees, and tells Harvin that Jorge already seemed to know as well, and that he is sure they are not scammers. Yet, Harvin takes into account the other possibility as well, saying that if they were to do it, there must be some good reason for it. Vlad asks what kind of reason could force them to do something like this, and Hervon replies that there is a 90% chance they need money, urgent money. He then tells Vlad to be careful, as there is only one reason for which an organization would try to rake in money quickly. That is a war against another organization. A war between the 5 bosses who dominate the slums of Schoarra. The whore's knight, Horge, the swine butcher, Black Bear, the gambler's dice, the whale hunter, Captain Hoover, and last but not least, the money bug, one-armed Jack. This is when Harvin tells Vlad that all the darkness of life is approaching him, hidden in the shadows soundlessly. Next, a bunch of people are gathered at Vlad's counter, and one-armed Jack seems to be the first in line, asking where Vlad's boss is. Harvin's words echo once again in Vlad's ears, saying that accidents happen without warning and destruction happens without notice. Seeing the money bug there, Vlad can't believe he has come in person. That being so, he realizes that the preparations for war must be done. While Vlad thinks about the situation, one of Jack's men gets annoyed, asking him if he didn't hear the boss's question, and once again asks Vlad where his boss is. Realizing he must say something, Vlad frowns and prepares to speak. He tells the man that he is just a candle seller, so he has no idea, which seems to confuse the guy. Jack's vassal then gets irritated and calls Vlad a fucking bastard. He then smashes Vlad's candles and tells him that if he doesn't know where he is, he should go look for him. Vlad, however, just stares down the men through the falling candles, without any emotion on his face. All of this while the other guy seems prepared to fight him. Knowing what Vlad's capable of, a crowd gathered, looking at the scene. The women of the brothel, the men, even Zemina are stunned after what they've seen. However, Vlad is simply and calmly kneeling down, saying that all of these expensive candles are now broken, so he guesses there are no more sales for today. Seeing this, Jack's man gets annoyed once again, calling Vlad a little fucker and saying that he doesn't realize the situation he is in. While standing before the men, Vlad murmurs something that he cannot understand. The guy asks Vlad to repeat what he said, and Vlad does so, telling the man to get his feet away, calling him by his name, Hyung Fuckfeet. This angers the men to a point of no return. He goes to strike Vlad with his leg, and just about when his kick is about to connect, Vlad starts thinking. A fight is a microcosm of war. He goes to dodge the men's attack, and thinks that the intended battlefield, the planned circumstances, and bold determination, that is the only way in which victory can be assured. He then hits the guy's ankles with a wooden stick. He sweeps the man off the floor, making him lose balance. He then prepares his next attack, with a killer gaze in his eyes. He hits the man right in the face, making him fall on his back in only one swing. Seeing what just happened, everyone remains stunned. Even one-armed Jack seems impressed by Vlad's fighting. Vlad then looks down on his opponent, and says that the back alley has one unchangeable rule. The winner will always be up high, and the loser down under, saying that as he holds the stick to his opponent's head, able to end him for good whenever. Seeing what just happened, the guy's comrades prepare to attack Vlad all at once, asking him how he dares do something like this in front of them. Yet, Jack places his hook in front of them and tells everyone to stop. He claps for Vlad, telling his people that he really likes this guy, and then addressing Vlad himself, saying that he only has one arm, so he hopes he will be a bit understanding of the noise. Unhinged, Vlad looks at Jack and tells him that he doesn't discriminate against the disabled. Hearing what he's just said, Jack starts laughing, acknowledging Vlad's daring nature and courage. He then places his hook under Vlad's chin and tells him that they should have a little chat later. I must say, this guy really must have balls made out of Captain America's shield or something. Jack then goes to ask Vlad which bum he took away, and Vlad replies by saying that since Jack doesn't remember, it doesn't matter, as they must have died early. Fortunately or not for Vlad, their chat is interrupted by someone coming in, calling for Moneybug, and asking what is happening there. This man is Chorish, coming with his own man, telling Jack that if he would have announced his coming, he would have had some meat grilled for him. Jack looks at Jorge and tells him to stop with this flattering, as they both know they are not this close. Jorge tells Jack that since they have guests, they should move this party upstairs. And hearing this, Jack places his head on his neck, telling Jorge to forget the meat, and instead asks if he has any good liquor. Jorge tells Jack that Marcella's not one to disappoint when it comes to hospitality, and Jack replies, saying that if that is so, they should have a taste. Jorge shows his guests the way, and the fighting stops, with one man trying to help up the guy defeated by Vlad. Vlad then huffs in relief, saying that he has almost died there. He then looks at the crate, and he cannot believe how many candles that piece of shit broke. As he picks the crate up from the ground, someone disturbs him, calling him a rising star. This is Jack, telling Vlad that Horsch did not hold back on the compliments, and appreciating his own good judge of character. He tells Vlad that once he gets tired of that burning smell, he can come work for him, as he wouldn't mind a lad like him. Vlad tells Jack he appreciates his offer, but he doesn't mind working for Horsch, as they feed him, pay him, and let him sleep. And hearing this, Jack starts laughing, telling Vlad that they can also do that for him. He then throws Vlad something to pay for the broken candles. He gives Vlad a gold coin. Vlad looks at the coin and tells Jack that this is too much. In reply, Jack tells Vlad that if he comes to work for him, he will give him as many of those as he wants, and then introduces himself, as if Vlad wouldn't have already known him, Moneybug. He then takes his people and announces to Horsch that he is leaving, saying that everything was delicious. Looking towards the crowd, Vlad thinks that Jack is looking pretty happy, and asks himself if things worked out in the end. Zemina then shouts from the balcony to catch Vlad's attention. She tells Vlad that Jorge wants him upstairs, and points her big finger at the door behind her. Jorge and Vlad are sitting at the bar, with Marcella before them, and Burley and a couple other men at the tables behind them. Vlad looks down at the countertop in awe, not sure what to say. There sits a beautiful dagger, and Jorge says that he was planning on giving this to him later, but the circumstances call for him to pass it on earlier. This being said, he tells Vlad to keep it on him at all times. Looking towards George and Marcella, Vlad realizes something. He thinks that he can tell just by the mood in the room alone. George and One-Armed Jack's conversation must have been a catastrophe. George also tells Vlad that from now on he is done selling candles, and Vlad asks what he's gonna do from now on. Maybe collect money, or patrol the area. Jorge tells Vlad that he has got a tip about Jack bringing people in from the outside. Apparently they are mercenaries who used to be knights. Vlad asks if these are people like him, and Jorge tells him that he is correct. One-Armed Jack led an overwhelming number of men, but even for him, the former knight Jorge was a difficult obstacle to overcome. After all, a flock of sheep is no match for a wolf, but by bringing in swordsmen on the same level as a knight, that balance is wrecked. Jorge tells Vlad that it's true they are at a disadvantage, so this is where he comes in, and Vlad is confused, asking Jorge what he means by that. Jorge then tells Vlad that he will give him his first mission soon. Next, an image of Harvin is shown, and Vlad describes him as a disabled man without fingers, and without the ability to even walk. Yet, with his clever mind, he taught himself language and mathematics, and using that, he is now working under Captain Hoover. As he is swinging down with his stick, Vlad says that seeing Harvin, he has realized that you learn through effort, and that learning takes you to higher places. Just as he thinks about that, a voice calls him, disturbing his composure. The voice tells him that he might want to narrow the angle of his elbow as he swings down, and Vlad remains silent. He then thinks that this bullshit happens whenever he swings anything that even resembles a sword. 1 month ago, he started hearing a voice after being struck by jet black lightning. Those demonic whispers start whenever he is holding a sword or anything similar to it. Vlad then thinks that he is going to need holy water before getting a sword. Vlad then shakes his head, thinking that he just needs to ignore it, as the more he replies to it, the more it will cling on to him. He just needs to focus, and to his best, focus all his mind and strength, and just strike down. Yet once again, the voice intervenes, breaking his composure, telling Vlad to narrow the angle. He does it, and this time, the strike seems to be more powerful. Vlad then acknowledges that it felt very different. Earlier, he was just swinging about, but that just now was more like something else. It was more like the sword path. Realizing this, Vlad asks himself what the hell has managed to make its way into his head. Sometime later, in the forest, the night seems to have fallen. A man is wiping his sword of blood, saying that you cannot fool experience. He then says that the winter air is so cold that he can feel it in his bones. He turns his head towards the tree line as he realizes something. Looking in the distance, says that it's possible for someone to hide in there, but if he does so, he is either stupid or acting stupid on purpose. The man walks towards the trees. As he comes to a halt, he shouts for anyone in there to hear that he doesn't know who they are, but to come out now, as he is there now. A voice is heard from the trees, asking if the man is Sir Stanga. The man acknowledges that this is his name and says that he must be the one called Vlad. He then comments on Vlad's appearance, saying that he has heard the guide was from the slums, but with those blue eyes and blue hair, people would easily mistake Vlad for a noble. Without saying anything about his comment, Vlad reaches with his hand forward, handing Sir Stanga a letter, saying it's from his boss. Sir Stanga reads the letter, which states that the opposing organization got a mercenary who used to be a knight, so that must be why Jorge needs his help. After this, Vlad tells Sir Stanga that he will guide him, and that they should arrive by night within 2 days. He goes on walking forward, and Sir Stanga looks towards him without knowing what to say. He then huffs, and says that he is not sure if he should really follow someone so stupid. Vlad replies by telling him that he is at least able to guide him, and Sir Stanga says that he doesn't think so. He tells Vlad that there is no way he is smart when he is doing something so stupid, which leaves Vlad speechless. He then stares Vlad down, and tells him that if he says something like, "This isn't the way," or anything of the sort during their voyage, he is going to kill him. Hearing this, once again, Vlad simply looks at him and doesn't comment anything. He just turns away and tells Sir Stanga to make sure he can keep up, as he doesn't want to screw up his first mission either. Seeing Vlad's behavior, Sir Stanga seems impressed, thinking that he has purposely made himself look threatening, but Vlad just ignored it. He then realizes what is about Vlad that Jorge likes so much about him. He is a child worthy of being nurtured. Inside the forest, the two men found shelter underneath a small opening inside a mountain and sit around a campfire. Vlad looks towards Sir Stanga, intrigued. Stanga notices this, and he doesn't seem to like the attention very much. He asks Vlad why is he staring, and if it's the first time he sees a retired knight. Vlad replies that it is the first time he sees one up close, and Sir Stanga asks him if he is a country bumpkin. Vlad then asks him where Stanga is coming from, and he says that he comes from Dikia. He then turns his back, and mockingly says that place is so fucking country, which seems to annoy Stanga. Stanga then tells Vlad to make sure not to lose his way, as he will slice him in two for that comment if he does. Hearing this, as he unpacks some beef jerky, Vlad tells Stanga not to say such scary things, as he has heard that jokes made by knights are threats. Seeing the food, Stanga says that the meat looks fresh, and asks Vlad if he also has his share. Vlad tells Stanga that they didn't pack him anything else, and asks him if he doesn't have anything to eat. Stanga says he does, and then he pulls out 3 small pieces of beef jerky and sheds a sweat from his cheek. Vlad then places his jerky around the fire, letting it grill. Seeing this, Stanga thinks that it smells really good, and all he has is those old pieces of meat. Stanga then thinks of something. He asks Vlad if he doesn't have anything to ask, and Vlad is reluctant to answer, asking what is up with this attitude all of a sudden. Stanga then tells Vlad that he will answer 1 question for 1 piece of jerky, and says that this is not an opportunity that comes across very often. Yet Vlad just is his jerky, and doesn't say anything for a second. Then he asks Stanga how many pieces he wants, as he can just ask for some, and Stanga gets annoyed, calling Vlad a brat, and saying that he has his pride. He then crosses his hands and tells Vlad that knights only receive things when they give something in exchange. Vlad says that even if that is true, Stanga is retired now, so he shouldn't care about that anymore. Yet Stanga says that he has gone by that belief until the present moment, so Vlad asks for his name. Stanga replies with his name, and Vlad asks for his age, to which he replies by simply stating the number 42. Vlad then poses a more interesting question, raising his hand and asking him if he can use aura. Hearing this, Stanga says that Vlad is only looking innocent on the outside. He then tells him that not all knights can wield aura, and using it in a real battle is another thing completely. Vlad then once again asks if he can use it or not, and Stanga tries to dodge the question by not answering it directly. Vlad, however, realizes that Stanga can in fact use aura. He then gives all his jerky to Stanga in order for him to let him see it. They both look into each other's eyes without making any gestures, in utter and complete silence. Stanga then rises from his sit and tells Vlad that a knight should only receive things he has given back. There are times when he has done whatever he wanted, but now he has only been eating jerky for the past few days, so there's that. And as he says so, he takes out his sword from its holder. Seeing this, Vlad's eyes light up, thinking that he can really witness it for real. Sir Stanga raises his sword with its tip towards the sky and closes his eyes. In fact, it seems like he is only closing his left eye. Vlad notices that, and he asks Stanga why he is doing that. To this, Stanga replies by saying that he needs to bring forth his world from deep within his soul. As his eye starts realizing some kind of blue light, he tells Vlad to watch carefully. This is the essence of nights. He then opens his eyes, and the light seems to be blinding Vlad. Stanga's sword is engulfed by the blue light released earlier from his eye, lighting up everything around them. Later, the two men seem to have arrived at the city walls. As they enter through a secret passage, Stanga says that he feels gross, like a hobo, and Vlad tells him that it's better if they look a little dirty, as it's better to look like a hobo than a knight. Stanga, however, was not complaining about his appearance, but his mood. He has the pride of a knight, yet he has to go through a hole. Vlad dismisses the matter and tells Stanga that he was told to escort him through here in secret, so they can't go through the main gate. He goes on to assure Sir Stanga that he will prepare a bath for him when they arrive, so they should move. As they walk towards the organization, the streets seem to be clear, with no one around. Stanga even says that it's so quiet that it's bothering him, yet Vlad says that it's simply that time of the night. They then look on the ground and notice something strange. Seeing what's in front of their faces, Stanga asks if that place is usually like that, and Vlad replies that this is not the case. Thus, with all the people dead on the ground, he concludes that they must have fought already. He tells Stanga to split up. He says that he will tell him where to find the back door that only their organization members know of, and Stanga asks what Vlad is going to do. As he runs away, he tells Stanga that he will go through the main gate, as right now it's better to split their attention, so he will see Stanga later. Reaching the main gate, everything seems to be full of blood. Seeing what's inside, Vlad can't believe his eyes. The place is completely trashed, and there is blood splattered everywhere. Sitting on a chair in the back is Jorge, getting mended by Marcella. He praises Vlad for getting in safely, and tells him that the money leech attacked them first, and as expected. Those who handle money are on a completely different level. Seeing the state in which Jorge is, Vlad's first question is if Jorge is okay. Jorge replies that it's been a while since he's gone against someone on the level of a knight, so he ended up like that. He then says that there are more important things going on, and asks Vlad if he has brought him, referring to Stanga. Vlad tells Jorge that he did, but since the main gate was being watched, he told him how to get in through the back door, so he should have arrived by now. Jorge tells Vlad that he has done a good job, and that they will attack the money leech tomorrow, ending this feud once and for all. He then asks Vlad what he thought of Stanga, and if he is fine. Vlad replies that he is, and that he also seems like a good person as well. Jorge says that Stanga has a hearty side to him, and Vlad says that he is quite nimble as well, just before Jorge asking if he had lost any weight. As to live a long life, you must look after yourself. Vlad tells Jorge that he is correct in his assumptions, and that Stanga is also a knight who can use aura, so he is sure that tomorrow will be their day. Hearing this, Jorge is stunned, realizing something. Vlad then turns away, and announces that Stanga has arrived. As Stanga is climbing down the stairs, Jorge once again asks Vlad if he is sure he saw him using aura, and Vlad confirms it, saying that he has seen it with his own eyes. That is when Jorge clings hard to his sword handle, and tells Vlad to get behind him. He then reveals the fact that Stanga does not know how to use aura. As the door opens behind Vlad, he asks Jorge what he means by that. The pretend Stanga comes inside the room, all bloody, like he has been fighting his way in. The pretender tells Jorge that he has come to a far place. He smirks, and tells Jorge that it's been quite a long time since they've last seen each other. Next, it seems we are brought back to the forest, where the pretend Stanga was cleaning his bloody sword, only now we get to see what really happened. As while wiping his blade, Stanga tells someone that he cannot fool his age, and that the winter wind has gotten to his bones. He then looks down behind his shoulder with disgrace. Behind him, we can see a bloody hand and a broken sword making their mold in the winter snow. Looking at the dead body, the pretender wonders if Stanga was a fool, or if any of this had a purpose. Back at Marcella's, Jorge and the pretender stay face to face, prepared to fight. The pretender tells Jorge that he has changed quite a lot, and Jorge asks him why come looking now after all this time. This is when the pretender tells Jorge that the Count Gaidar has passed away, leaving him stunned. The pretender then pours some liquor into a glass, and says that it hasn't been announced due to some complications. But soon enough, Everyone will learn about it. The men stare each other down with Jorge not sure what to expect, and the pretender having a devious look on his face. He then raises his glass above his head, holding a toast for the fallen and pitiful Count Gaidar. This is when Jorge can't take it anymore, and he gets angry. He charges towards the pretender, calling him a son of a bitch, prepared to fight to the death. The pretender doesn't seem to be bothered in any way though, and as Jorge prepares to strike, we can see his reflection in the glass. Jorge swings his sword downwards with amazing power, destroying anything that stays in its path, with pieces of wood and debris splattering all over. After this, the look on everybody's faces changes to one of disbelief. The pretender has managed to dodge Jorge's attack, and he mockingly holds another toast, this time with no glass, but looking over his shoulder at Jorge, cheering for the new Count Gaidar, Sigmund. Once again, Jorge charges to attack the pretender, calling him by his name, Godin. Yet Godin simply parries his attack. As they clench swords and look into each other's eyes, it seems like Godin has something to tell Jorge. Thus he recites the first order given by Count Sigmund. Have the deserted knight Jorge return immediately. Hearing this, Jorge screams that Sigmund is not his lord. This being said, Godin tells his old pal that the Count doesn't expect for him to return obediently either, nor does he hope for his return actually. The fight continues, with broken bottles and tables flying everywhere. Once again, the two men charge at each other, prepared to strike with all their might. In the last second thought, Jorge changes his grip, which Godin notices. He falls back, and manages to dodge Jorge's powerful strike. Seeing the toll the fight takes on the place, Vlad tells Marcella it's dangerous for them to remain there, so they must leave. As the men keep fighting, Vlad and Marcella run away through the secret organization door. Getting on the inside balcony of the brothel, someone screams for them. This is Burley and his crew, asking Vlad what is all that fuss up there. Seeing him, Vlad wants to tell him to bring everyone, as Jorge is fighting. He doesn't get to finish his sentence though, as in the next instant, Jorge flies by Vlad, heading right over the railing and towards the ground floor. Seeing this, Marcella starts screaming, and Vlad is not sure what to do in this situation. Jorge seems unconscious, falling down like a rock. From behind, Godin can be seen, still in his stance from his last attack, and the wall behind him seems to have been broken during the fight. After throwing Jorge through the air, Godin tells him that he is still making choices as naive as ever. Jorge then violently falls to the ground, making a pile of rubble and dust shoot into the air. Everyone gathers around him in order to make sure he is okay. Luckily, Jorge coughs, so he seems to still be alive. He tries to get up, while Godin watches the scene from the balcony. He looks down on Jorge with pity and disgrace. That is when a dagger flies right towards Godin, yet he easily manages to parry it. It looks like the one throwing the dagger was no other than Vlad. The two are now staring each other in the eyes, waiting for someone to make a move. Godin, however, doesn't seem interested in Vlad, so he just jumps down, prepared to finish Jorge for good this time. Seeing this, Vlad screams for his boss to get out of his way and dodge his attack. Jorge seems to be too weak to even stand up, let alone dodge Godin's attack. Even so, he manages to jump away at the last second, and Godin strikes the ground. Jorge slides across the floor for a few meters, in order to distance himself from Godin, as he just prepares for his next attack. Godin then looks at Jorge and asks him why he didn't follow the orders that day. To this, Jorge replies that he is a human being, so he can't blindly follow dogshit orders. Hearing this, Godin tells Jorge that he is wrong, that he is no human being, but a knight. Jorge clenches his teeth, prepared for Godin's next attack. Burley and the others are also backing him up this time, prepared to help Jorge. Seeing the people gathered there, Godin realizes he must do something. He holds his sword at his side and says that the night has dragged on for too long. He closes his eyes and says that now he just wants to rest. Realizing what's happening, Vlad starts running down the stairs, trying to help the others. Godin activates his aura, prepared to once and for all finish what he started. Vlad starts screaming, asking Godin not to do it. However, it's already too late for that. In an instant, Jorge and all his men seem to be cut down by a string of light. The same light as before emanates from Godin's eye. Aura. He starts waving his sword around, creating a blue string of light all across the room. Seeing this, Vlad places his hand in front of his face in order to not get blinded by the powerful light. Then, everything around starts getting destroyed. The place is completely trashed, with not even one table still standing right. Among the rubble, only Vlad seems to emerge unharmed. Seeing this, Vlad wonders what on earth just happened. That is when he sees everyone around him is dead. Vlad cannot believe what is happening. He then notices Godin, still standing among the rubble. Horde's head seems to be cut down, standing on the ground. Vlad starts screaming for him, and that's when he notices it. His facial expression changes as he realizes what happened. Jorge was the first to offer a hand to the boy rolling in the back alley dirt, the first to acknowledge the boy, and the strongest person out of all the people the boy had ever seen. He is no more now, as the blue moonlight quietly approaches, holding Jorge's hand in his hand. This is how he wretchedly shattered the young boy's world into pieces. Seeing this, Vlad picks up one of the swords on the ground. Blinded by fury, he lets out a battle cry. He mindlessly attacks Godin, as the voice inside his head tells him to stop it. Godin easily dodges Vlad's attack. Seeing the way Vlad moves, Godin realizes that he can use the sword's path. Looking at him, he wonders how a sewer kid could know the sword path. Staring down at Vlad, he calls him impressive, yet he doesn't seem to care, as he just mindlessly swings his sword, shouting for Godin to die already. That is when Godin applies one powerful blow to Vlad's stomach. The kick sends him flying back. He loses the sword and rolls around the ground and towards the fireplace behind him. Godin looks at him, with his cape falling down. Godin realizes how amazing Vlad actually is, as he must have been born with the sword path in his system. Besides, he cannot believe how he instinctively twisted his body and deflected his attack. As Vlad tries to rise from the ground, the voice inside his head tells him to take it easy, breathe, and not lose it. Godin looks at Vlad and thinks that chopping off this budding prospect right now is too much of a waste, even if someday he will return with a sharper sword. He then remembers Jorge's words from when they were comrades, with Jorge telling Godin that watching over those with potential is always a pleasure. Godin then smiles, remembering their good old times. He then stands before Vlad, acknowledging the fact that he attended to him when he needs it, and saying that a knight only takes a fair price. Hearing this, Vlad doesn't understand what Godin wants to say with this. Godin throws at him the 2 pieces of jerky Vlad gave to him earlier, and says that his name is not Stanga, and that he isn't actually 42. He got an unfair price from Vlad, so he will give it back. However, he holds George's head in front of Vlad's eyes, and says that he will take that. He says that it's a fitting price, and his right as the victor. Seeing this, Vlad tells Godin that he will kill him. Godin turns his back, and proceeds towards the exit. As he distances himself more and more from Vlad, he tells him that with the way his life is right now, he shouldn't even think of asking for a second price for the beef jerky. Vlad clenches his teeth. He then once again screams that he will fucking kill Godin. As Godin goes through the hole in the door, holding Jorge's head in his left hand, Vlad screams that no matter how long it takes, he will kill him. With tears filling his eyes and bruises all over his face, Vlad screams for Godin to just wait and see what will be coming for him. Outside Marcella's, Vlad is being helped by someone around the city. That someone is Zemina, carrying Vlad away from the carnage he's just witnessed. Suddenly, Vlad feels a sharp pain in his abdomen, which makes him fall to the ground. Vlad huffs, and he remembers what happened after the fight. He stood on the floor of Marcella's pub, as she told him to get up. Marcella asks Vlad if he wants to die there, but gets no response. Vlad simply stares down at the floor, without saying a word. Marcella stares Vlad down and gets annoyed. She then smacks him on the face. He tells Vlad to get it together, as there's no time to lose. She asks Vlad if he knows the difference between the guys that live in the center of the town and them, the slum loser. She goes on to say that that difference is opportunity. Those guys can get back up even if they fail once. They can afford it. Yet what about them? She asks, pointing towards the room full of dead people. She says that this is the result of just one failure. They die if they fail once. That is the fate they are bound to. She then grabs Vlad from the shoulder and tells him to not miss this once-in-a-lifetime chance. Back on the streets, Vlad wipes off his sweat and starts picking himself up. Zemina asks him if he is okay or if she should slow down, but Vlad says they should keep going. He cannot end things there. Suddenly, a man screams from behind them. He states that he has found Vlad, Jorge's little minion. Seeing this, Vlad clenches onto Zemina's hand, telling her they must run, and he starts sprinting, dragging her along. As the man with swords are following Zemina and Vlad, he thinks that their nest was destroyed. Even if they were just young birds, It was time for them to soar into the sky on their own. After a couple of minutes, the men have lost their tracks, standing around in an intersection, wondering where Zemina and Vlad could have gone. One man tells his comrades to inspect every corner, as he will reward the one finding Vlad handsomely. This man is the guy from Jack's crew that Vlad beat the shit out of for breaking his candles, and he says that he will make Vlad pay for the same he made him feel. The men are splitting up, saying that they couldn't have gone too far. Hidden behind a wooden door, with the dagger in his hand and Zemina holding her breath, Vlad realizes they are in a bad spot. He thinks that at this rate, there is no way they will be able to escape. Vlad tells Zemina that once things get quieter, she should go back, but she seems worried about him, asking what Vlad will do. He tells Zemina that he must get out of there somehow, as they are close, and it's dangerous for them to move together. Hearing this, Zemina tells Vlad that there is no way this will happen, as she wants to stay with him. Vlad reminds Zemina of the promise she has made towards Marcella, that she'd just help him get to a good enough location and then leave, and he tells her to get to the convent before sunrise, or if not, she must at least get to Harvin, but she doesn't want to hear it. She wants to stay by Vlad's side. Seeing her stubbornness, Vlad calls her an idiot and asks her if she finds him in any shape to protect her. Zemina starts crying and doesn't know what to say. Suddenly a voice disturbed and startled them. Zemina gets scared and goes to pick up a knife she sees on a countertop. A man with a lantern comes and seems to be intrigued by the kids. This man is the blacksmith. He asks the kids why they're there, and Zemina tells him not to move as she points the knife towards him. Seeing this, the blacksmith asks Zemina what is up with her, as she is the one intruding in his house, and not the other way around. Zemina is hysterical though, and once again tells the man to stay away, or he will get stabbed. Seeing this, the blacksmith seems to get a grasp on the situation. Vlad doesn't know what to say, and Zemina is still crying, scared. The blacksmith tells Zemina that he understands the situation they are in, so she can put down the weapon. Seeing the old man's composure, she gets even more angry and clenches her teeth. She then tells the old man to give her his sword. Hearing this, the old man doesn't understand what she refers to. Zemina then clarifies that she is talking about the sword the old man had hung outside the shop, and says that it's not safe outside the city either, so she is not kidding. She needs to give it up. Vlad tries to calm down Zemina, telling her to give it up, but Zemina is still screaming for the sword. Seeing this, the old man realizes that this is how the slums are, the true character of the people who need to take from others in order to survive. The old man thinks that he was the same as well. He thinks that now, it's her turn. He then says that it's a sad sight. Hearing this, Zemina gets mad and prepares to do something unexpected. She swings the knife and Vlad shouts for her to stop, but this is pointless. The old man closes his eyes, prepared to accept his fate, while he waits for the knife to gut him. Vlad remains stunned at what she does. She has cut her own hair. Even the blacksmith is confused, not sure what is happening. She then holds the cut hair in her hands and tells the man that she knows this won't be enough, but she swears she will make sure to pay him back later. With tears in her eyes, and with her hair cut short, she once again begs for the blacksmith to give the sword to Vlad. The old man looks down at Zemina's hair. He is not sure what to do. He then turns to Vlad and asks him if he is leaving, to which he replies affirmatively. That is when he realizes that the one thing he could never do despite having dreamt of it all his life, this young kid is going to achieve it, even though he hasn't even spread his wings yet. Seeing this, the old man huffs and says that the young ones sure make things hard for him. He then turns his back and prompts the kids to come with him. Outside the city, someone is carrying a carriage full of rubble. That is the old man, and a cloaked figure standing behind the carriage. The cloaked figure complains about the smell, yet the old man tells her to keep pushing, as this is the only way. Suddenly, the old man is disturbed by someone. A group of thugs are asking him what he is doing out so late. Seeing this, the old man cannot believe that these bastards are here too. They ask why he is throwing out cash at this time of the night, and he thinks about what to say. He starts screaming at the guy, saying that it's because of them bastards, as they've blocked up all the alleyways with their stupid fighting, and his smithy is about to burst because of all the garbage he hasn't been able to throw out. The thug wants to say something about the old man's personality when he notices something. She sees the cloaked figure behind the carriage and says that he thought the old man worked alone, so he asks who that is. Once again, the old man starts screaming that he was too tired to do the work alone, so he gives him some bread to do it for him, and asks the thug if he wishes to push it for him. The thug says that he is fine since he is the only blacksmith around, but he has to check who the cloaked figure is. He then places the tip of his sword at just under the hood of the cloaked figure, and proceeds to lift it up slowly. As he does, the man tells the person not to move unless he wants to have something cut off. He then slices the cloak up. What he sees stuns both the thug and the old man. Zemina, with her now short hair, starts crying and says that it is surely hard to make a living. Seeing this, the thug doesn't have any more suspicions and simply tells them to pass. As he leaves, the old man asks the thug what he is looking for, and the thug replies that he is looking for Jorge's blonde kid, as they couldn't find his body. The old man asks if they can leave now, but the thug says there is just one more thing, so they can be certain. He tells one of the bastards he brought with him to check the wagon. He tells him not to do it in the middle of the road though, which startles the kids and the old men. The bastard agrees, and he gets his spear, approaching the wagon. The thug then points his sword towards the bastard kid and tells him to go over to him. Seeing this, the old man asks himself if maybe they should have gone through somewhere else, but realizes there was no other place they could have gone. The bastard looks at the wagon and tells the men that he has surely brought a lot of trash. Even so, he notices something, but keeps it to himself. It appears like he has recognized Zemina. She lets her gaze down, and the bastard kid doesn't say anything. He grabs his spear and tells Zemina not to hate her, as this is his job. He then spears the trash, going all the way through. Seeing this, Zemina starts crying, and the old man is left speechless. The bastard kid doesn't seem to have any reaction though, yet he tells them that he has heard Harvin has put a boat out to the river. Hearing this, the old man and Zemina realize that the bastard kid might be helping them. He also didn't strike Vlad with the spear. He missed on purpose, and tells them that everyone has made their way to the boat, as they think Harvin has brought the boat out for a reason. Thus, they should keep that in mind. He then takes his spear out, and tells them that they can pass. The old man takes the carriage and leaves, looking over his shoulder at the bastard kid that now has his back turned. As they leave, the bastard kid says that this is payment for the 40 silver his brother owed to Vlad, so this must be Ned's older brother. Hearing this, Vlad smiles, realizing he has made the good choice paying for Ned. The guy's name is Otar, and Vlad thanks him for the help, even if he cannot say it out loud. Finally, they end up at an open gate that seems to be under construction. The man stands before the open gate and states that the trash here goes outside the city. Seeing this, Zemina starts crying and says goodbye to Vlad, telling him that he must be okay. The old man then tips the wagon, and all the trash falls out. With it also falls Vlad, holding the sword from the old man in his right hand. The star the boy held in his hand was something the oil man made with his dreams, and something that was bought with the girl's tears. Outside the city, Vlad stands near a campfire, and holding the sword up, he asks if he can hear him. The voice in his head replies that it can, and Vlad asks who he is, but the voice says it doesn't know. Vlad tells it that it has so much to say about swords, but he doesn't know who he is, and the voice has nothing to reply. Vlad then says that this must be for the best, as he will help it if the voice helps him. He says that he will help him regain his memories if he will be his sword. He tells him that he doesn't even care if he is the devil. What he is really afraid of is that he is nothing. And hearing all this, the voice tells him that he will tell Vlad all about it, all about his sword. Somewhere in the forest, there is a war camp set. The flag of those that own the camp has a sword between two walls and two olive branches intertwined at the base. Inside the commander's tent, a man goes to move one unit on the war map. This man is Joseph Vayezid, the second son of the Vayezid family. Looking at the map, the man says that this is too easy. A man then makes his presence known, addressing Joseph as a young master, and stating that he has returned, and Joseph seems to be happy he is there. This man's name is Jaeger, one of José's soldiers, having short black hair and beard, and a path over his left eye. Jaeger says that it seems like something seems to be bothering Joseph, and he asks him if everything is okay. Joseph says that it's because it is too easy. In reply, Jaeger states that this monster subjugation is going smoothly, and that the number of casualties are few. And besides, all of the casualties are only mercenaries. And hearing this, Joseph asks if the deserters aren't considered irrelevant missing people. He then starts thinking that an outcome without any variabilities or deserters is going to make everyone doubt his ability to command. His father and the vassals are a given, but there is something else. Rudiger, his older brother from another mother. Hearing this, Jaeger is not sure what to say. Joseph thinks that at this rate, everything will come to destruction. If he cannot become the next count, it's obvious what Rudiger will do. The Vayezid family glorifies the military. The proof is in the history, since his father and his blood-related brothers stepped on each other to obtain the position of count. Joseph tells Jaeger that he does not have enough swordsmen. That is, of course, except Jaeger. Jaeger then tells Joseph that there is something else he needs to inform him of, and Jaeger asks what that is. Jaeger tells Joseph that there is one suspicious soldier, and Joseph asks if it could be the spy his brothers sent. However, Jaeger says that this is not why he is suspicious, and that he will understand when he sees him. Jaeger then shows Joseph a goblin that has his belly cut in an intricate pattern. Seeing it, Joseph can't stand the smell, and calls it dreadful. Seeing it, Joseph concludes that these must have been done by a child who probably just started wielding a sword. Jaeger then asks Joseph to take a look at some other bodies as well. Going around it, Joseph says that the technique is really poor. Looking at it, he says that they are all really the same. As he progresses, he says that he can see a couple better ones. That is when Joseph realizes, all the same traces, but just a little different each time. Joseph then asks Jaeger if all of them were done by one person, and there seem to be quite a lot of them. Jaeger tells Joseph that he is correct, and that all of them came in yesterday, and the ones that Joseph just saw have been sent in a month ago. Looking at it, Joseph says that it's impossible for someone to make such progress in just 1 month. Realizing how incredible this is, Joseph asks who the soldier is. Next, inside the forest, goblins are slain left and right by the Vayezid soldiers. One of them tells the others to tighten the formation so that the goblins are not able to escape. One guy spears a goblin, after which he says that he can finally see the end of them. He then prompts the others to get the rest of them. That is when everyone remains stunned. A big goblin is sitting right behind him, prepared to take him out in one blow with his big Ooga Booga club. Before the guy even gets a chance to ask what is happening, the goblin strikes down. The impact's force makes everyone turn away so that their eyes are not hit by rubble. The monster killed the soldier in one hit. Seeing the sheer power the goblin has, the soldiers are intimidated. The monster then lets out a war cry, making everyone understand he means business. He then rages towards the crowd of soldiers, which stand prepared to stop him. To no extent though, as he seems to be passing through them like a hot knife through butter. Seeing what is happening, one of the soldiers says that this is crazy, asking where did that monster come from, and another one announcing that he has managed to break through Group 5, so they should fall back. As they run, one guy standing on a horse at the top of a hill doesn't seem to be aware of the situation. He screams at the soldiers, asking them what are they doing, ordering them to go back forward as they are not getting compensated for running away. Hearing this, the mercenaries turn back and tell the man that they didn't know there would be hobgoblins, and that he should have requested expensive mercenaries instead, or fight them himself. He has the audacity to talk. That is when the man on the horse gets angry and pulls out his own sword. As he does so, one of the mercenaries is thrown before him, startling his horse. The hobgoblin then picks him up by the head, making blood splatter all around. Seeing this, the guy on the horse sheds a sweat. He finally realizes what he's up against. Next, Vlad can be seen going towards the goblin, yet the mercenaries are calling him Riemann. More so, he seems to have earned the title, the Praying Riemann. Vlad looks towards the beast and says that he will take it on. He charges forward, holding his sword with both hands, prepared to strike it down. As he approaches though, the hobgoblin notices him. Vlad then prepares to swing his sword with full power. He cuts the back of the hobgoblin easily. It doesn't seem to be enough though, even Vlad acknowledging that it was a shallow cut. The hobgoblin goes to attack Vlad back, and that is when the voice tells him to dodge. Vlad gets down, as the club of the goblin approaches him at tremendous speed. He manages to dodge it at the last second by leaping away from the attack and behind the monster. He slides across the snow with his right hand on the ground, trying to stop. Seeing what just happened, Vlad realizes he once again failed his technique. The voice tells Vlad that he is stupid if he cannot do it even after being told how to do it, and Vlad thinks that you'd be considered a genius if you could just do it after just being told how to do it. As the hobgoblin charges towards him, Vlad says that he is only taking the long route towards the final goal. The hobgoblin then prepares to attack. He swings his club, yet once again Vlad manages to easily dodge it. Again and again, to the point where he annoys the monster even more. The hobgoblin smashes into the ground, point blank right where Vlad was, and rubble and debris flies everywhere, limiting vision on the battlefield. Looking down though, it looks like Vlad was faster. The club hit the ground and Vlad wasn't there. The hobgoblin then realizes something is wrong. Vlad is right behind him, using all his power, and saying that this time, he will definitely cut it. The goblin looks back in disbelief. That is when Vlad takes the final swing, with his pale blue eyes emanating fear around him. Back at the camp, Joseph just heard about the praying Ryman, and he tells Jaeger to investigate and find out everything he can about him. Jaeger simply places his fist on his chest in a sign of respect, and tells his count that he will do as he is told. Looking at the bodies again, Joseph thinks it makes no sense. To progress from those crooked, sloppy swings and be able to walk down the path of the sword in just a month is really impressive. After thinking about it, he smiles and probably thinks that he cannot wait to meet this Riemann. Back on the battlefield though, Vlad, known as Riemann now, has managed to defeat the hobgoblin, in a flashy manner as well, cutting his head down in one swing. The words of Joseph linger around as an echo, as he thinks that Vlad is a genius. Carrying out the bodies towards carriages prepared to take them away, people look for anything that can be looted, saying that they thought there would be good things there because of the powerful hobgoblins, but everything is just trash. One of the mercenaries comes to his captain, praising him, saying that once again, he has managed to do a fine job. Vlad, however, doesn't care much for praises, telling the guy to stop with the chattering and make sure to load up his kills, to which the guy replies that he's already done that, saying that nobody would dare touch what's his anyway. The guy then tells Vlad that they are also almost done with this, and asks Vlad what he's going to do next, offering him to do some work together. He tells Vlad that with his swordsmanship and his brains, they could achieve great things, but Vlad cuts it short, saying he doesn't like working with frauds. Hearing this, the guy gets annoyed, remaining silent for a couple of seconds. He then realizes that Vlad is wearing a mercenary plaque. He tells him that he cannot keep using that. Also, he offers to introduce him to someone that is really good at forging those, but Vlad once again stops him, this time using his name, Goethe. He tells him that he should know by now that blabbering can get people killed, thinking that if it's a suggestion he will just warn him, and if it's a threat, he will kill him. Hearing this, Goethe shuts up, realizing that he's already said too much. He tells Vlad that he was only saying for his own good, as it's a shame to only earn change like this when he is that good. Vlad, however, doesn't seem to remember asking for Goethe's impute, so he tells him to shut up and continue cleaning, otherwise he will be saying goodbye to his head. Goethe then turns his back, running away, saying he will do as told. Looking towards him, Vlad huffs, and thinks that he will have to do something about him at some point. He then turns away and enters the forest, as his people continue to load the carriages. Seeing this, the people say that Rainan is going to pray again, and that he is really consistent with it. Inside the forest, Vlad places his sword into the ground and holds his head against the handle. Noticing him from behind the trees, his people find him very cool, and theorizing that maybe he is a noble, and saying that he was for sure not born in the same class as them at least. However, this is not the case, as Vlad is actually scolding himself for not being able to cut the hobgoblin in one strike. The voice inside his head then calls Vlad a fool, and tells him once again that the principle of one hit, one kill lies in the element of surprise. Yet Vlad doesn't understand what he means by that. The voice tells him that when he raises his sword, the opponent goes whoosh, so that is when he's gotta go wham. And hearing this, Vlad asks if he is really supposed to understand this. The voice then asks what Vlad doesn't understand, as the principle is really simple. He has to go wham when they go whoosh, but it seems like these terms are exactly what he doesn't understand. All of this, while the men behind him reproduce his way of sitting, also praying. Next, they seem to have gotten back to the war camp. Inside the canteen, a brown stew of some kind sits on the table. Vlad takes a spoon of it, wondering what kind of meat it is, or if it even is meat. Honestly, I wouldn't even try to smell that, let alone eat it. Like Jack said, Bro's got balls of steel. Goethe, on the other hand, doesn't even bother to think about it, saying that as long as it's free, he doesn't care. He tells Vlad that it's really hard to find a place where the employer provides meals, but they are the Vayezids after all. The food, it's really salty, but it's better than nothing. Vlad rises from the table and tells them that if that is so, to enjoy it, but he's not going to join them. As he is leaving, his subordinates ask if the captain is going to see the priest again and asking themselves if they should maybe also start praying. Yet another one replies that they have no chance of ever becoming like him. Next, it seems like the soldiers were right. Vlad did go to the priest. Inside the tent, the priest greets him, also addressing him as Riemann. Bro kinda looks like Einstein, doesn't he? Let me know in the comments. He bows before him and addresses him as Father Andreas, asking him if he's had a good night's sleep, and the priest replies that he did, just as he always does. The priest then tells Vlad that he has heard he was also praying to the last night, stating that it must have been really cold at that hour. Vlad replied that he couldn't feel the cold, as he was in the embrace of God. In reality, Vlad was actually training, trying to understand all that whoosh-wham shenaniga. Hearing what Vlad says, the priest laughs and tells him that he is more like a priest than he is. Then a little kid comes telling the priest that the table is ready, and Father Andreas thanks him. Father Andreas sits Vlad at the table, telling him that he was just about to partake in breakfast and asking him to join in, and Vlad replies by telling him that he appreciates it, but he did not come there to eat. Father Andreas doesn't seem to want to hear about it though, as he then sits himself at the table and starts praying. As Vlad and the kid join hands, letting their heads down, the priest thanks the Lord for the meal and asks him to provide them with strength from it. He then opens his right eye, looking at Vlad, and also wishes from God to let them do good unto others. Looking at Vlad, Father Andreas calls him an honest believer, saying that even in the midst of such a lowly place, he has not lost his faith. He thinks that he needs to lead this young man, who will always bloody his hands in battle. This too must be a fate God has charged him with. As he says amen, he looks at Vlad and asks him to eat, and Vlad thanks him. Looking down on his plate, Vlad says that this is real food, rare wheat bread and soup. Just as Vlad is about to take a bite from the bread, Father Andreas asks him how his swordsmanship is progressing. He states that he has heard a lot about it, and that Sir Joseph has too. Sir Jaeger also came in to see Father Andreas 2 days ago, asking about Vlad. This gets Vlad's attention, asking Father Andreas what happened then. This is when Father Andreas tells Vlad that he has recommended him. He told Jaeger that he will be looking forward to seeing how Vlad, Riemann as everyone else knows him, will progress. Father Andreas goes on to tell Vlad that the Vayezid family is a renowned family in the north, so just being able to work for them will put him in a much better environment. He states that Vlad has the right to that. Inside the forest, Vlad is once again talking to the voice in his head, saying that what is happening isn't good, as the way he is killing those monsters is too conspicuous, and the voice tells him that there was no choice, as his swordsmanship can only be learned through real experience. He then states that perhaps the bigger issue was being too close to the priest, yet Vlad says that it was necessary, as he had to check. Hearing this, the voice asks him if he is now certain that he is not an evil being. Vlad then thinks about Father Andreas, how he is said to be someone who's reputable, and with great divine power, enough of it to be offered the title of bishop. Since he didn't seem to notice anything off about the voice, he says that he is now certain. Vlad then asks the voice if they should run off, and the voice says that they might turn a blind eye to his identity since he is skilled enough. Yet, Vlad thinks that they will find out that he's killed a mercenary who was stealing, and then he will be charged with both faking his identity and murder altogether. The voice mocks Vlad, saying that he is quite an evil man, and Vlad points his finger at the sword, saying that he was an accomplice as well. Everything being said, the voice tells Vlad that he thinks it would be better to run, as self-defense claims only really work when you have an eyewitness, and Vlad concludes that if this is so, they will run away tonight, and they will also take Goethe with them, as this way they will be able to obtain a fake mercenary plaque. The voice doesn't seem to be on par with it though, thinking that what Vlad wants to do might actually prove to be difficult. He then tells Vlad that someone is approaching him, and that it has the grade of at least an advanced knight. Hearing this, Vlad turns away, pointing his sword forward, and taking his stance. The person approaching was Jaeger, who seems to be impressed by what Vlad has just done, Seeing what just happened, Jaeger didn't expect Vlad to sense his appearance. Thinking that he is better than he's actually anticipated, he then tells Vlad that Sir Joseph wishes to see him. Seeing what just happened, Vlad thinks that he should have booked it right away instead of hesitating, as he might actually be screwed if he doesn't act right. He then addresses Jaeger saying it's an honor, and thinking that they say a poker face is an undeniable skill in a card game. Jaeger asks Vlad if he knew he was coming, and Vlad replies that he has heard it from Father Andreas, but he didn't know he would come so soon. Once again, Jaeger finds Vlad interesting, as a young kid like him should at least be intimidated by him, but Vlad doesn't seem to be bothered at all. He then turns away and prompts Vlad to come with him. Vlad looks towards Jaeger and thinks about what he should do. He wonders if he should run away now, but the voice tells him not to attempt it. He tells Vlad that a knight of his level could kill him before he even takes 3 steps. Hearing this, Vlad sheathes his sword, thinking that if this is so, he has no other choice than to follow Jaeger's command. Inside the command tent, Joseph greets Vlad while reading from a book, saying it's nice for them to finally meet. Hearing this, Vlad bows down and tells Joseph it's an honor to meet him. Joseph asks Vlad if there are any inconveniences with his work, and he states that everyone is thankful for his consideration, and that everything is okay. Joseph then comments on his appearance, saying that with those blue eyes and blonde hair, he thought Vlad was the son of some fallen noble family. He then asks if his name is Ryman, and Vlad, with his head still bowed, tells Sir Joseph that he is correct. He then closes his book and tells Vlad that he should have informed him of something earlier. This is when Jaeger smacks the shit out of Vlad. Joseph then finishes his sentence from earlier, saying that he abhors liars. He then acknowledges Ramon's true identity, Vlad of Schoarra. Vlad wiped his mouth and acknowledged that he now understood Joseph had known the answer before posing the question. Joseph confirmed that it had been verified that his mother was unmarried, yet no information about his father could be found. He then inquired of Vlad if he had any idea who his father was. Vlad, hearing this mocking question, bristled, retorting that it must be amusing for him to ask the son of an unmarried woman who his father was. Jaeger reacted to this by striking the back of Vlad's leg, causing him to lose his balance and fall to his knees. Jaeger then stared down at him and instructed him to remember his manners. Vlad remained silent. Joseph intervened, stating that there was no need for such action, and that Vlad's comment was rather humorous. He added, referring to a mercenary group, that Vlad could have killed someone and brought them in. Joseph then informed Vlad that they already knew why he had fled Schoarra, and proceeded to ask where he had learned to wield a sword. Vlad hesitated to answer. Observing his face, Joseph remarked that Vlad's eyes concealed far too much. Jaeger then drew his sword, immediately capturing Vlad's attention. Realizing he had no choice but to respond, Vlad bit his lip, searching for a suitable reply. He finally stated that he had had a teacher who had appeared and vanished like lightning. This piqued Joseph's interest, and Vlad continued, explaining that his teacher had never revealed his name, but had imparted a secret, the sacred, one-man, ever-winning secret, never to be divulged to anyone. Seeing Vlad's unwavering gaze, Joseph softened his demeanor and apologized for the harsh treatment. Vlad, looking at Joseph, wondered if his tactic had been successful. Joseph then informed Vlad that he might not realize it, but he was in a precarious situation, and therefore he had an offer for him. He extended his hand, asking Vlad if he would be interested in rising to a higher station, hinting at power, survival, and knighthood. This left Vlad speechless. Joseph concluded by stating that he, House Vayezid, wished to support him. On the training grounds, Jaeger and Vlad sparred, Vlad barely managing to block one of Jaeger's attacks. Observing them, some of the other men speculated that Jaeger was holding back. They wondered if Vlad was to become Sir Jaeger's disciple. Noting his exceptional skill, they agreed that Vlad was fortunate, destined for a bright future, all while Jaeger prepared to attack again. Vlad again managed to block the blow. Jaeger, however, seemed unimpressed, calling Vlad an arrogant brat and admonishing him for daring to hold his head high before Sir Joseph with such meager skills. He declared Vlad a brat who didn't know his place. As Vlad fought, he thought Jaeger was on an entirely different level. If he dodged an attack, Jaeger immediately followed up, his attacks too forceful to block. Vlad decided to try a different tactic. As Jaeger struck from above, Vlad positioned his sword between the attack and his shoulder, causing Jaeger's sword to slide harmlessly off. At that moment, Vlad realized he had created an opening and, seizing the opportunity, prepared to strike Jaeger. Jaeger easily blocked the attack, but sweat was visible on Vlad's face, a clear indication of his struggle. Seeing this, the other soldiers cheered for Vlad, believing he had succeeded. Jaeger remained unimpressed, stating that Vlad should at least be capable of this much. Vlad then understood that he had not truly succeeded. Jaeger had simply allowed him to land a blow. After their training session, Jaeger informed Vlad that from then on, they would spar every morning and evening, leaving Vlad stunned. Jaeger then departed, dismissing the morning session and advising Vlad not to cool down too much. Vlad watched Jaeger leave. Finding his behavior rather non-committal, he had offered no advice, yet the voice within him declared his swordsmanship remarkable, explaining that Jaeger had eliminated all his superfluous movements, and that being hit was how one learned. Vlad placed his hand on his neck, thinking that no matter where he turned, no one was on his side. Inside the tent, Yosef and Jaeger conversed. Yosef asked Jaeger his opinion of Vlad after witnessing his skills firsthand. Jaeger replied that Vlad could be used, having reached a point where he would even catch the eye of the count if he were a noble. Joseph concluded that his judgment had been correct. Jaeger continued, stating that while Vlad's skills were commendable, the issue was his arrogance. Joseph remarked that this was to be expected, given Vlad's upbringing in the back alleys, and told Jaeger that etiquette could be taught gradually. Joseph then suggested to Jaeger that he had the perfect man for the task right in front of him. Jaeger remained silent. He then asserted that a disloyal sword could not be trusted. Joseph countered that Vlad's bowing his head upon their first meeting would not have earned his trust either, so it was better to observe his inner self. Joseph then recalled his conversation with Vlad in the tent, where Vlad had said he had something to do no matter what. He mused that this might be for the best, as a relationship where both parties had something to gain might be preferable. Jaeger simply bowed his head, stating that if this was Joseph's wish, he would obey. Joseph concluded that Vlad was not quite the wolf either, despite his cocky, untrustworthy, and self-assured demeanor. He instructed Jaeger not to rush, as he would need time to build a vast cage, a cage so large that the wolf would mistake his captivity for freedom. Under the night sky, Goethe stood alone by a fire, remarking on the cold and the persistent winter fog. He then mused about Vlad's new position serving under Sir Jaeger, regretting not having charmed him earlier to gain his attention. He consoled himself, thinking it must be a good opportunity for Vlad, and even better for Goethe, as it meant he was out of the expedition team in this weather. Suddenly, another soldier approached, asking if anything was amiss. Goethe, addressing him as Roderick Neem, replied that everything was normal. Roderick instructed Goethe to pull himself together and perform his duties diligently. Goethe bowed his head, acknowledging Roderick's instructions and assuring him that he need not worry. Roderick, trusting Goethe's competence, turned to leave. As Roderick walked away, Goethe's thoughts turned critical. He considered Roderick unapproachable, saying he was so rigid that even a needle couldn't penetrate him, and then remarked that since he had just patrolled the area, he wouldn't be back for a while. Goethe then leaned against a tree, declaring it the perfect opportunity for some rest. He closed his eyes peacefully, clutching his spear in his left hand. He was soon disturbed by Roderick's voice, demanding to know what someone's business was there. Goethe wondered if Roderick had truly left. He looked toward the source of the noise and overheard Roderick asking what kid was looking for, wondering who Roderick was addressing. Goethe could only see Roderick, who appeared to be speaking to a woman, telling her he knew nothing about any kid. He then abruptly stopped speaking. Goethe, puzzled, wondered what was happening as he could no longer hear Roderick. He paused, then acted. Stepping out of the tree's shadow, he looked around. He was even more intrigued by what he saw. Roderick seemed to be leaving, but not in the direction of the camp. Goethe then noticed something else, a black shadow, like a gasp of air, surrounding Roderick. At that moment, Goethe felt a sense of unease. As he turned, a monstrous figure opened its wide mouth, as if to devour him whole. The following morning, Vlad complained about his aching body, wondering if Jaeger could be a little less harsh. The voice within Vlad's head told him it was a golden opportunity, mentioning the numerous people who would pay to spar with Jaeger, highlighting his value as a knight. Vlad considered that even if this were true, Jaeger had seemed intent on beating him. The voice countered that this made the sparring even better, as everyone needed motivation. Vlad found this unsettling, Suddenly he was interrupted by someone calling him by his assumed name, Riemann. It was Goethe. Vlad asked Goethe when he had returned, as he hadn't expected the expedition squad back yet. Goethe was unsure how to respond. He then told Vlad that he was going to run away that night. Vlad asked him what he was talking about. Goethe whispered that he was visiting out of goodwill, and that they should meet later for some fun. Vlad asked Goethe what kind of nonsense he was spouting. Goethe insisted it wasn't nonsense, that he had seen it with his own eyes, in those woods, the woods they were supposed to explore, that they were cursed. Vlad was incredulous. Goethe pointed out that they'd had deserters before, even with the good pay and pleasant work environment, and Vlad agreed. Goethe then stated that the woods had taken them, that they weren't deserters but missing people, leaving Vlad speechless. Goethe claimed to have seen it, the ghost that took people into the woods. Vlad remained unimpressed. He raised his hand to strike Goethe, calling him a rascal and saying he must be joking. Goethe maintained he was telling the truth, adding that even a knight had gone missing yesterday, which caught Vlad's attention. Vlad asked if he meant Sir Roderick, and Goethe confirmed it. Goethe then revealed he had discovered something about all the missing men. They all had one thing in common: black hair. Goethe cursed his own weakness, regretting his earlier goodwill. As he walked forward, followed by Vlad, Jaeger, and 20 to 30 troops, he thought he should have just taken his belongings and fled instead of giving in to his better nature. Jaeger, noticing Goethe's muttering, asked Vlad if they could trust him. Vlad replied that they shouldn't, but that he wasn't crazy. Jaeger considered the situation. He suspected Joseph saw this as an opportunity, as discovering a specific trend among the missing people might be more valuable than a fruitless expedition. Yet the commonality of the missing men's hair, like Joseph's, troubled him. Vlad, sensing Jaeger's concern, assured him that 3 knights were stationed at the post, so everything should be fine in their absence. Jaeger dismissed them as useless. Still, he couldn't stay behind. With Roderick missing, someone more skilled had to take charge. Goethe then announced to Sir Jaeger that they had arrived at the expedition's camp. A man, introducing himself as Aaron, Sir Roderick's subordinate, greeted them. Jaeger asked if they had thoroughly searched the forest and found no trace of Roderick. Aaron confirmed their failure, explaining that even experienced hunter mercenaries had found no footprints. Jaeger decided to investigate himself. He ordered his soldiers to search the area in groups of 3, spreading out as far as possible, all while the sun set over the forest. Goethe turned to Vlad, complaining about his predicament, and accusing Vlad of being a fraud who exploited people's goodwill. Vlad told him to stop the chatter and focus on the search, promising to compensate him later. Jaeger then asked if they had found anything. Both replied negatively. Jaeger called Vlad useless, while Vlad countered that he was a city dweller and had no idea how to track someone in a forest. Jaeger asked how he used to find people in the back alleys. Vlad replied that it was simple. You grabbed someone and beat them until they talked. Jaeger called him really useless. He then noted the setting sun and wondered if he would have to return empty-handed. Suddenly he had an idea. He looked toward the river and asked if they had searched beyond it. Goethe replied that to his knowledge, no one had crossed the river, as it was not within the expedition's designated path. Jaeger reasoned that since there were no traces in the woods, and they had already searched it once, they wouldn't find Roderick or the unknown woman there. He ordered Goethe to gather the mercenaries. They would cross the river. Goethe complied, whistling to summon everyone. Stepping onto the partially frozen river, Jaeger observed that it wasn't completely frozen. Vlad remarked that winter was ending, but it was still sufficient to cross. Jaeger agreed that if they moved carefully and crossed, it might work. As the mercenaries gathered, they asked Goethe if he had found Roderick. Goethe replied that he hadn't, which was why they were being summoned. Jaeger explained that they would expand the search by crossing the river, which was not entirely frozen, so they would cross in 3 groups. The mercenaries began walking onto the ice. Goethe, however, hesitated. Vlad asked what was wrong. Goethe expressed a bad feeling. Vlad dismissed it as nonsense, calling Goethe scared. Goethe admitted he was indeed scared, and that he wasn't like great men like Vlad. He explained that people like him needed good intuition to survive, and that his intuition told him crossing the river was a mistake. Vlad countered that he wasn't sure about Goethe's intuition, but he was sure of something else, which piqued Goethe's interest. He then told Goethe that if he ran away now, his death wouldn't be pleasant. Goethe's face paled with terror as Vlad explained that since he would be the only witness fleeing the scene, even he would kill him. He ordered Goethe to stop the nonsense and follow him, as crossing the river was his only chance of survival. As they walked onto the ice, Goethe swore that whatever he was feeling, it wasn't right. Lightly stepping on the ice, Goethe asked Vlad if it could break. Vlad confirmed it could, adding that if he didn't stop rambling, he would break it himself and throw him in. Goethe fell to the ground saying he couldn't do it. Vlad grabbed Goethe by the collar and told him to get up, as they were the only ones left behind. Suddenly, Goethe screamed. Looking down, Vlad was shocked. All the missing people were encased in the ice. Reaching towards the surface, the ice began to crack. The corpses were emerging, trying to grab the living. Vlad never expected zombies in this series. The team realized they were surrounded and asked what they should do. They looked to Sir Jaeger for guidance. Jaeger, meanwhile, realized it was a trap, an elaborate trap, as if they knew they were coming. A trap set within the night and darkness, territories not of the living, which were now closing in on them.